You're listening to episode number 121 of the Transforming Your Life from the Inside Out podcast. This episode is titled Your Self Management Skills Equal Your Life. And if you don't have what you want in your life, plain and simple, you don't yet have the self management skills to create those things that you want. If you want more, then you need better, different, more productive self management skills. And if that's you, keep listening. Hi, I'm Jim Fortin, and you're about to start transforming your life from the inside out with this podcast. I'm widely considered the leader in subconscious transformation, and I've coached super achievers all around the world for over 25 years. Here, you're going to find no rah-rah motivation and no hype, because this podcast is a combination of brain science, transformational psychology, and ancient wisdom all rolled into one to take your life to levels you've never thought possible. If you're wanting a lot more in life, to feel better, to heal, to have peace of mind, to feel powerful and alive, and to bring more abundance and prosperity into your life, then this podcast is for you, because you're going to start learning how to master your mind and evolve your consciousness. And when you do that, anything you want then becomes possible for you. I'm glad you're here. Lao Tzu, and I believe it was Lao Tzu or maybe Sun Tzu. I know one of the Zhu brothers, and I'm just kidding, they weren't brothers. At least I don't think they were. But anyway, Lao Tzu said, "Mighty is he who has power over others, and mightier still is he who has power over himself." So the question that I have for you, and what this episode is about is, what power do you have over yourself? Now, that question being asked, I look at each week what I want to do, and I don't normally know sometimes until the day I sit down and record the episode. And I know that I talked about this podcast becoming more of a spiritual podcast because I work with a shaman, and it's all spirituality and quantum physics and non-ordinary reality. And those are a lot of things that I want to bring to you. I do and I will, but the reality is this, is those things are all well and good. And I can talk about the fifth dimension and all these kind of things because I've had the experience with a shaman for all these years. But the question is that going to make your life tangibly 3D, meaning the third dimension, the physical realm? Is it going to make your life any better? I'd mentioned before in one of the episodes, I don't know when it was, I put out so much content that a lot of it runs together. But I'd mentioned a friend of mine, and I think it was last week or the week before, named Akio Matsumura. You can Google him. Akio is the only private citizen to bring together 1,000 world leaders 6 times. The Dalai Lama he is friends with and advised him, 6 secretary generals of the UN, Mother Teresa when she was alive. Mikhail Gorbachev nominated him for the Templeton Prize, which each year goes to the person who's created the greatest advancement in human spirituality. Now, the only reason I tell you this and to recapitulate or reiterate a story I've already told, he was here, he stays in my house when he comes to Dallas. And a while back, he was saying, many years ago actually, he said, Jim, he goes, I know that you're a spiritualist, but if you really want to help people, you help people make more money. Because guess what? You can put money in, one hand for people, and you can put God in the other, but people can't eat God. Now, the reason that I say that is, and I mean this in a very empirical, very practical way, whatever your beliefs or any of that, I mean, yes, because our thinking affects our physical world. But the reality is if everyone had that connection with air quote God, then no one would have any problems in the physical world. And technically, we don't have any problems. It's our perceptions and our interpretations that make things problems. But what I mean is if you had that connection to divineness, which most of us, we all have, and most of us don't know how to use, then you'd never have a problem paying your visa bill or your student loans or your car payment, or we wouldn't have how many millions of Americans, on unemployment right now. We'll get to that in just a minute. Anyway, this episode is literally about managing your life, and it's about self-management skills. Because the big mistake that most people try to make is they try to manage their life by either circumstances, or that which is a sure-fail way to not change anything in your life, or they try to manage their life by time. And there's an episode here somewhere that there is no such thing as time. Time is a human construct. Quite literally, it's a way for us human beings to make sense, linear left brain sense of our 3D world. But according to physicists, there is no such thing as time. But yet, it's one of the things that most of us want to manage our lives by when it's an illusion. It doesn't exist in the way that humans have it organized in their mind and their thought processes. So, for the sake of this episode, the only thing that you can manage is your energy, which you are a bioelectromagnetic being. Quite literally, I mean, your biology and you're electromagnetic. That's why when people have a heart attack, they defibrillate them. Why? Because they're bioelectromagnetic. Now, I want to go one step further, which I'm sure you're familiar with if you've been with me for any amount of time, is that your thoughts are well, they come from your bioelectromagnetic organism, which is your brain, but they're also electromagnetics. And your thoughts affect your body, they affect your 3D world, and they affect your actions, which is what I want to talk about here as we go on here. But let me back up here a little bit. What most of you try to do is you try to manage your life. Now, notice we started this podcast, what, 3, 4, 5 minutes ago? That time doesn't exist anymore, which the only thing that exists is right now in this second. But we're always trying to actually manage it by hours and days and weeks and months and later today and next week and next month. And none of that exists. All that you can do all that you can do is self-manage your energy and your thought, and your energy is your thought, which produces your feelings. All that you can do is manage your thought right now, this split second, from second to second to second. And then what happens is we metaphorically here is we chain the seconds together and they become minutes, and the minutes become hours, and the hours become days and weeks and months and years. And when we look at the outcomes we have in life, whatever it is, wherever you are, we'll talk about how outcomes in a minute also. When you look at the outcomes in life, your outcomes are a reflection of every thought that you have from second to second to second. And many of us think, well, you know what? Yeah, my thinking is kind of crappy and I'll change it later, or I don't have time, or, oh, I'm tired. Let me work by circumstance. Let me work by convenience. I'll change. I'll work on that later. When in reality, later never comes. Later is now. Meaning, whatever you're thinking right now is what's creating your very next minute from now. And how you self manage in this very second will create what you have 1 second from now, 1 minute from now, 1 hour from now, 1 day from now, and 1 week from now. So, the question in this episode, right now to start, is how do you self manage yourself? Now ponder that, and I'd put some Jeopardy music on if I had, and I could actually, if I wanted to edit this myself, I could drop some Jeopardy music in for 15 seconds, and I could say, how do you self-manage yourself? Have you ever asked yourself that question? How do I self-manage myself? Now, let me answer that question for you. It's easy. If you want to know the answer without speculation, look at your environment. Look at your health, your wealth, your money, your relationships. Look at everything in your life. How you self-manage yourself is objectified in your environment. So if you really want to answer the question, how do I self-manage, myself, look at your environment and there's your answer. Now, for many of us, what some people do is they get into their fear, and they're like, well, I don't want to look at my life. Oh no. And then what they do is they go into self-pity and, oh, poor me. And, oh, you see, I just can't do this and I can't do that. And I'm not good at this. And it's all a bunch of nonsense. It's all nothing more than stuff that we make up in our mind. But when it comes to self-management, meaning that our external environment is a reflection of our internal environment, James Allen wrote As a Man Thinketh, I believe back in 1868. And there's a poem in the book, and I memorized it literally 20 years ago, and it goes something like this. And if I mess it up, well, I mess it up. But I think it goes something like, mind is a master power that molds and makes. Man is mind, and evermore he takes. He thinks in secret, and it comes to pass that his environment is just his looking glass. Okay, woo, I got it out. Well, your environment is your looking glass to your self management skills because your environment is your self management skills objectified. Okay, here's a pitfall for a lot of you, and I want to caution you. A lot of you are getting into cognitive dissonance as you're listening to me. And you're saying things like, well, no, that doesn't apply to me. And let me tell you why. Because of my mother and my father and my bankruptcy and the person who stole from me, and my father used my credit, and my mother did this, and my brother did that, and because of the economy and because of COVID. And really, what you're into in that moment is you're already externalizing why the world as it is as it is when it's your world, when it's your self-management skills that actually created your life in the first place. So hopefully, you're going to get really honest with yourself in this episode and take a really brutally honest look at your life and be 100% responsible for becoming a great self manager and making wise decisions for you that are going to get you the outcomes that you want. Because everything in life is choice, which I talked about on a prior episode. Actually, just scroll back through Apple iTunes and look for the episode titled Life is Choice. So, also, what I want to point out here is another fail point that a lot of people get into is many people compartmentalize. They will, for example, be doing really well at work and they will actually compartmentalize and brush their personal life under the rug. Meaning, oh, I'm really successful at work. My marriage, not so much. And I'm cheating on my wife or cheating on my husband, or my wife sucks or my husband sucks or whatever. And they will actually have a sense of being great in all areas of their life, or they will compartmentalize it or minimalize it because they're really good in one area of their life. And I see that as well. So, what I want to do here is I want to look at 6 life areas. And what I want you to do, what I'm requesting you do, is as we look at 6 life areas, rank yourself on a scale from 1 to 10. 10 being absolutely horrible, and I'm sorry, no, 1 being, no, I can't even. It's late at night. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. One being really bad, 10 being great. Okay, there we go. Whew, got that out. Okay. So if like it's 10 stars, that's obviously a 10, like it's amazing. But if it's really bad, then it's a 1. So let's look first here at your health. What is the quality of your health? All right, that's number 1. Number 2 is what is the quality of your finances? Are you living paycheck to paycheck? Do you have money rolling in and tons of money in the bank? What about your relationships? Let's pick your primary relationship if you have one with a partner, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, partner, whatever you choose to call it. What is the quality of your relationships? What about this? If you work for a living, or, well, let me put it this way. If you're working a salaried job, what is the quality of that job? Now, the overall quality, you might love what you do, but are you being paid what you're worth? What about if you own a business? What is the quality and success of your business? What about this? What kind of social life do you have? What kind of social interaction do you have? What quality of social life and social interaction do you have in your life? And then finally, what is the quality? And it's a bit nebulous, but what's the quality of your spirituality? Now, if you were to take every one of those and rank them from 1 to 10, what is your score? Ideally, your highest score would be 60, and I don't think any of us are there. We're all working on things. But I'm going to tell you statistically, most of you are probably anywhere in the 20 to 40 range. So let's look at this. Let's look at health. According to research that I found, an estimated 160 million Americans are either obese or overweight. Now, I know that a lot of people from all over the world listen to this podcast, no surprise this day and age. And there are many cultures that aren't as unhealthy as Americans. I mean, we literally are a very unhealthy country because of the chemicals and the garbage in the food supply here in the US. But nearly 3/4 of American men and more than 60% of women in the US are obese or overweight. When it comes to children in the US, 30% of boys are overweight and something like 20% of girls or something like that. Oh, now here it is. It just popped in my mind. 30% of boys and girls under the age of 20 are obese and overweight. Consider that. 30% of boys under the age and girls under the age of 20. I remember when I was in third grade, which is 1973, we literally had one overweight kid in our classroom. Literally one overweight kid. And that was it. And I don't know why I remember that, but I do. In this day and age, you look, you might have in a class of 30 kids, you might have two or three that are trim, fit, and healthy, and you have a majority of the room that's overweight. It's because of the garbage in our food supply. But the point is this, it's not about the garbage in our food supply. It's more about what is your health. So statistically, that's what I shared with you about health, money wise. I've mentioned before many times on this podcast, 78% of Americans, mind blowing, 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. 18% of the U.S. population lives in income poverty, and 37% of Americans are 3 months from poverty. That is shocking. And it's especially shocking. I don't know when you're going to be listening to this episode, but the date, I don't even know what today is. It's July 13th of 2020 when states like California again are shutting down because of COVID. And look at all the people that are going to be unemployed again. Let me go there for a second, completely off topic. I don't generally use Facebook for my own personal use anymore. Why? I'm going to be candid with you, is because I don't want to read all of the massive amount of opinionated, uneducated, uninformed opinions about either politics or COVID. But something I posted last night on Facebook is one of your surest here in America, people are like many are like afraid of, COVID. Wear your mask. Yet a large percentage of the population here in America is they're taking off their mask to drink their Diet Coke and to eat their McDonald's and to pop all this food in their mouth, which is garbage food, and they're 50 pounds overweight, yet they're worried about COVID. Where I'm going with this is when it comes to health, the surest way to ensure as you can, one of the surest ways. I mean, wash your hands, etc. All the things we've heard before. But one of the most empowering things that you can do for you is strengthen your immune system, because the stronger your immune system is, the less likely you are to suffer any significant consequences of COVID should you contract it. Okay, public service announcement over. Let me come back to the podcast. And I have mentioned, by the way, D3 and K2. Do your own research on that. All right, so relationships. How great is your relationship and how did you rank yourself? Here in the US, according to current statistics, 40 to 50% of marriages end in divorce. According to some research that I read, I didn't spend a lot of time researching, but in 2014, the National Opinion Research Center, and again, I don't know who they are, so I'm going to just take it with a grain of salt, but I coach a lot of people and interact with a lot of people, so the numbers sound reasonable to me, or empirical, is that 60% of couples are in an unhappy relationship and 40% are considering leaving their relationship. Now, coaching many people for as many years as I have and interfacing with millions of people over the years, I would say that's probably pretty accurate. I would say that at least 50% of people are in unhappy relationships, and many times they stay, and then the others they don't, and they leave, and we've got a 50% divorce rate in the U.S. Okay, next, when it comes to, and it's hard to find any hard and fast, very, very credible research, but I did read that 70% of Americans are unsatisfied with their jobs. Now, I can believe that. It doesn't mean they hate their job, but they're unsatisfied because they're not growing, because of politics, they're being underpaid, their skills aren't being utilized, they can't contribute. So I would believe that that is correct. 70% of Americans are in unsatisfied jobs. Three, and this is according to the SBA, Small Business Association. 3 out of 5 businesses in the U.S. go under in 5 years. Not only is that self-management, that's self-management related to marketing and business skills. Many people, according to the AMA, American Marketing Association, don't belong in business in the first place, and most people don't develop their marketing skills and their business skills, which again is self-management skills. Okay, so I did a little research looking for these statistics earlier, and candidly, I get tired of looking for statistics. So the next couple of categories that I talked about were social life and spirituality, and I'm like, oh, the hell with it. It's midnight. I'm going to stop looking. But you know what? You get the point. And everything that I just mentioned, in some way for most of you, it reflects your own life. And that comes down to your own self management skills or your lack of self management skills. Now, an example that I've used before, I'm going to use it again because it hits home. When I heard this example, it hit home immediately. Is the example of a factory foreman. A factory is only as productive, and of course, I'm keeping this as a small shop metaphor. I mean, we're not talking about IBM or Apple or whatever, but let's say that you manage a factory and you've got 100 employees, and you're the sole manager of that factory. That factory is only going to be as productive as you are a productive manager of those 100 employees. Well, the metaphor applies to your own life. Is your life is only as air quotes successful as you are a self-manager of your own life. And if you're not self-managing yourself well, it's no surprise that you don't have the outcomes that you want in life. Also, I caution you about getting into your self-deception. When I asked you earlier about the categories, I mean, if you were really being 100% honest with each of those categories that I talked about, which were health, money, relationships, work, business, social life, and spirituality, are you really being objective about your self evaluation? Because research demonstrates that people are not very objective about self evaluation. And that's actually called, colloquially here in the US, it's called the Lake Wobegon effect. In particular, when people compare themselves to other people, they tend to evaluate themselves at a higher level than other people, when in effect, it's not statistically possible. So, what I'm asking you, as I'm asking you these questions about self evaluation, are you being objective? And you know what? Let's take the opinion out of it. Look at the circumstances of your life. Are they what you want them to be? Are they happy? Are they fulfilled? And by the way, none of us are perfect. I'm not casting any stones here. I mean, there have been times in my life, and I am in a very, very good place in my life. I'm very I'm reticent to use this word, but content, I mean in a positive way, with my health, my wellness, my relationships, my family, my money, everything. My life is doing very, very well. But I also know that my life is a reflection of the choices that I have made, which are a reflection of my self management skills. And I want to point out, full transparency, and it's no secret because I've talked about it before. Man, oh man, there's been some times in my life where my life was completely, and it's been a lot of years, but my life was completely, I'm just laughing to myself, completely flipped upside down. Holy cow, was my life flipped upside down. I mean, digging in the back seat of my car for change so that I could buy macaroni and cheese and tuna and eat, money wise. So no judgments here, but the reality and the point of this entire podcast is for you to learn, for you to grow, for you to transform, but for you to take a real look at yourself. And really, what I want you to do also in this episode, which I did a few episodes ago, for crying out loud, take yourself off autopilot, because what you do, I know it's what you do. What you do is you hop on and you listen and you blow through it, and you don't really like bite into the content, and just, I mean, just like get a big juicy bite of the content. And you're like, "Oh, yep, that's good. Okay, time to rush to," because you're managing my time. Time to rush to my next thing, or time to rush to this appointment, or time to do this, or time to do that. And you're not letting the episodes absorb. And perfect case in point. How many of you have listened to episode number 9? I believe thereabouts, when I talk about money and how most people use the law of attraction to repel money. How many of you have listened to that? How long ago was that? A year ago? How long ago did you listen to that episode? And are you still having money issues? If you listened to that episode, and if you haven't, then go back and listen to it, and listen and listen and listen and listen again. And by the way, I've got a money workshop coming up in August. I'll get to that in just a minute. But if you're listening to the episodes and you're not seeing any, but it doesn't apply to anybody, a marketing podcast, it doesn't matter. If you're listening to the episodes, whether they be mine or something else on some other subject matter, and you're not getting dramatic results, it's because quite literally you're scratching the surface of the episode you're listening to and you're not letting it soak in. And then what you're doing, which is what people do, cognitive dissonance, is we take an episode, I believe that's what it's called, cognitive dissonance, but you take an episode and you cram it into your mental model of reality. You take what I say, and if it doesn't fit into your brain and your model of reality and your identity and your beliefs, then you whittle away what I said, which is the meat and potatoes, and you try to make it fit and cram it into your model of reality so that it will fit with your model of reality, which, by the way, is what we humans do and most of us are very good at. Anyway, so the question is this, and this is where we're going to, is I want you to look at your life. And then I want you to look at, as I talked about, your health, your money, your relationships, your work and your business, your social life and your spirituality. And then where I want to go is this, and you've heard me talk about this before. What is your level of well-being in your life? Because well-being is the highest state of function for a human being. I'm not going to go into it in this episode because I've done it in others and I'll do some more of it. But we are, which we talked about earlier, electromagnetic beings. And however you feel is literally, okay, let me back up. However you think is how you feel. However you feel affects your vibration, and how you vibrate and your vibration affects your frequency, which means what you attract back to you. That is physics. So I ask you to look at the areas I talk about: health, money, relationships, work, business, work and business, social life, and spirituality. What is your overall level of well-being? Because whatever your level of well-being is what you're thinking, which is what you're feeling, which is what you're vibrating, which is what your frequency is, which is what you're attracting back to you. That's why it's vital we become a very good factory foreman to manage our thinking from the inside out. The name of this podcast my podcast, Transform Your Life from the Inside Out. That is why it is vital, vital, vital that we learn to manage from the inside out instead of the outside in. If you're trying to manage your life from your externals, and then some of you might be saying, Jim, oh, come on, dude, you've already said this before. Yes, I have. But the question is this: have you gotten it? Seriously, have you gotten it? If I were to grab you by the shirt collar and shake you and say, have you gotten it? If you don't have and you're not creating what you want in life, then no matter what you say, you haven't gotten it. But what most of us do is we manage our life by our externals. And here's the fail point. When your externals change, your internals are going to change. If you manage yourself on the inside, but what's going on the outside, when the outside changes, and it will change because we live in a world full of human beings and circumstances and environment, when that changes, you will change. And when that happens and you operate from that place, you are sunk. You've heard me say it probably every third or fourth episode in this series, is also if you don't have what you want in life, this is also self-management, is that you have your attention in the wrong places. Because you've heard me say before, you are where your attention is. And guess what? Whatever you have in life or don't have, that is because that's where your attention is. And if your attention is going to places that are creating outcomes that you want, again, topic this week, that is a reflection of your self management skills. Now, I run Facebook ads. I run them year round for my transformational coaching programs, but they're not for the coaching program. They're for basically, I'm just being transparent with you. They're for a lead magnet to pull people onto my list so we can market to them. I mean, geez, this isn't free to do all this. But anyway, one of the ads that I had tonight, and my marketing team obviously runs ads that we know that are high converting ads. But one of the ads running right now is about stop setting your goals. And there's actually even a podcast episode on that. I don't set goals. I don't. I seriously, I don't set goals. And I live um, a very good life financially. I live an extremely good life. I'm in the top one half of 1% of income earners, and I don't set goals. I create through intention and attention and will, which there's a podcast episode on that 3, 4, 5 weeks ago. But anyway, Somebody posted tonight, and somebody had actually posted under the ad, as people do, about a 12-week $1,000 program. Well, I've not even introduced it to you guys, but the transformational program we do have in digital format. We're testing it out, and we are offering a version of it, meaning I'm not coaching, my coaches are not coaching. It's self-study for $1,000. I'm not even. There's more details on that much later. But anyway, somebody said, "Yeah, I saw that too." Now, if it works, then yes, totally worth it. But sadly, as he said, most people live paycheck to paycheck, especially right now. So most of us don't have $997 to spend at once or even the $300 payments. That person, a lot of respect for her, and I actually even posted a very kind response in the group. She literally is living by circumstance. Because, see, she's living by this is where I am right now. And this is horrible self management. She's living by this is where I am right now. The legendary Jim Rohn, not James, well, I assume his name was James. Jim Rohn always used to say something along the lines of, "You're not a tree. You can change your life." So, this person that posted this, she's living by her circumstances. What she could do differently is she could say, "Well, you know what? I could get a different job. I could start my own business. I could borrow the money. There's a lot of things that I could do. I could work two different jobs to get the money to invest in this program." I'm thinking there about things that I want to say because somebody could say, well, maybe she's disabled. There was a guy, we have mutual friends, it doesn't matter his name. The guy's a paraplegic in a wheelchair. Or no, he's a quadriplegic. And he's a multimillionaire, self-made in the last couple of years, all made with internet marketing. I mean, for crying out loud, Stephen Hawking wrote The Brief History of Time one letter at a time by typing it via with one finger. So there's never any excuses in life. But what I want to share with you is every excuse that you make is a poor self management decision. And it keeps you trapped over and over and over again. And until you decide, doesn't matter what's going on in the world right now. It does to a lot of people, it doesn't to me, because why? I'm responsible for me. But I remember a friend of mine. I've coached him. I've coached him for 10 years now. His company went from 5 years ago from losing 40,000 a month when he started it to making 100 million a year right now. And in 2012, he was broke into the year. 2013, he had made his first million. And I said to him, "What changed for you?" Because I wasn't really in communication with him that year. And he goes, I decided, which is good self management, it's about choice. I decided to actually stop being broke. And to me, that's amazing self management. Why? Because he's recognizing that he's the manager of his factory, of his life. And the person above, she's leaving it all external because of what's going on. She even said, especially her quote is especially right now, meaning she's living from the outside in. And then she wonders why she can't get outside of that broke paradigm. Very poor self management. All right, now for you right now, a takeaway. Let's make this concretized. Pick one area of your life that I talked about earlier, and it can be your health, your money, your relationships, your work, your social life, and your spirituality. If you want my opinion on it, but I want to give you more. I want to give you more modules on this. Pick spirituality because when you can manage your spiritual energy, which is not there's no dogma behind that. When you can manage the essence of your being as a human being, and you can manage your energy, that is extraordinary power. But I haven't given you guys enough about that yet. I have in various ways and in different scenarios and dressed it up in different ways. But when you can manage yourself, like Lao Tzu said, that is power. But pick one area. And then what I want you to look at is I want you to ask yourself, what self management skills would I need to develop? And then what goes into those skills? So if you pick, for example, you're 40 pounds overweight, you've heard me say it a bazillion times in this podcast, that's your environment. Most people try to change their weight without recognizing what skills, what beliefs, and what identity do I need that precede losing the weight, meaning releasing the weight, dropping the weight, whatever you choose to call it, being your ideal weight. So I'm asking you right now. There's no need to tackle the world. Rome wasn't built in a day, as you've heard me say before, and that's but just a common phrase. But the reality is, if you could pick one area, and all that I care about is that you do pick one area. And the reason why is because once you learn to self-manage in one area, then you just duplicate, rinse and repeat to other areas of your life. I do want to reinforce also, please go back if you've not been with me for a long time, go back to the earlier podcast, episodes 1 through 5. Listen, I would tell every one of you, listen to episodes 1 through 10 again and again. And what I want to share with you is everything in these episodes. There is not a thing in any of these episodes that doesn't also pertain to me. Why? Because I'm on the planet and I can see myself in every one of you. Literally, I've been there pretty much where every one of you have been. Why? Because we all go through the same thing for the most part in life. And I've been there. The only difference between you and I, for the most part, is I've been in your circumstances and I can see myself in who you are or where you are, yet I find myself in different circumstances and in a state of well being because of the self management choices that I have made. Now, you might say, well, Jim, didn't you have heart failure a few months ago? Yes, I did. And the cardiologist still don't know why that happened. They're like, we're clueless. We're scratching our head. Maybe it's a virus in your heart. We don't know why you had heart failure. This day and age, I'm doing very well and I'm healing each and every day. And I'm going to tell you right now that I'm healing each and every day because I work with a shaman. So there's a lot of natural things that I'm on and things that he's doing to help me heal. But a large part of it is managing, self managing, being the foreman of my thinking relative to my health and wellness. Why? Because every thought that I have literally affects the cells of my body. And my entire body is one organism with trillions of cells in it, and my cells communicate. So, whatever or however I self manage myself and my thinking relative to my health, that's going to be my outcome for the most part. Okay, before we go to the transformational takeaway this week, I'm going to come back and recapitulate, mark your calendar for August the 11th. I'm going to be doing a workshop, and it's going to be titled How the Law of Attraction Repels the Money and Abundance You Want and How to Become Rich. Now, as I said, go listen to episode number 9. And you might think, well, Jim, why would I come to this workshop of yours on the 11th when you have the episode on a while back? Why? Because I'm going to go far beyond that episode. That's why. I have this entire workshop structured. We're going to cover 6 main areas: shifting your money locus of control, your wealth and poverty identity, your subconscious habits, prosperity consciousness, which most of you are lacking. Statistically speaking, not an opinion, but it's a fact. Separating your money from work and self autonomy. Again, that's going to be on August the 11th. It is not going to be free, which I alluded to last week. I don't know the price point yet. And some of you right now are probably saying, well, what's it going to cost me? Let me ask you this. Are you asking yourself, and it's probably going to be 2 hours, maybe 3 hours long. Are you asking yourself right now, what's that workshop going to cost? Now, I ask you that question because if you're asking what the workshop cost, you're already in poverty thinking. I know because I've been there. See, the difference between wealthy, successful people, and I have coached a lot I actually 1-to-1, I only coach millionaires. And this isn't 100% because we could talk about buying a TV. What's that going to cost? Or what's the car going to cost, etc. But when I look at tools that are going to grow people's lives, people that think from poverty mentality say, what's that going to cost me? People that think from a wealth mentality say, what is that going to do for me? And I used to always say, oh my gosh, here we go. What's this going to cost me? What's that going to cost me? Am I going to have the money? I don't think from that place anymore. Where I think from is, what is this going to do for my business? Because when I grow the business, I can grow more people. And when I can grow more people, then by the law of reciprocity and the law of attraction, that grows my business, which grows my income, which means I can help more people, which becomes a cycle for me. So, anyway, mark your calendar for August the 11th. We'll give you more details a little later on. It's going to be the afternoon of, I don't know what time yet, the afternoon of August the 11th. I don't know the price point yet, but I guarantee you I will cover and go deeper than any other 2 to 3 hour program you've been in. And I will not hold anything back. It's not going to be a teaser. I'm not going to upsell anything to you in that program. I'm going to be just transparent with you. The reason that I want you to increase your wealth is because when I do that for you and you listen to me and you do as I teach you to do, then maybe there's a chance that you'll come back and enroll in the transformational program. And that being said, you will transform your life and go out and transform more people. And I can live and do what I do, which is creating a ripple effect in the world, which is making the world a lot better place. So it would be completely ridiculous to think that I don't have an ulterior motive. My ulterior motive is that I help you actually start to make money and get out of your hole and become wealthy and become at least financially comfortable. In exchange, you enroll in programs with me, and together we make a bigger difference in the world. Because my dharma this lifetime is to serve as many people as I can to help them grow and evolve. Okay, back to this week's episode. Lao Tzu. Mighty is he who has power over others. Mightier still is he who has power over himself. So when it comes to you, your self-management skills, if you want to know what they are, look at the external circumstances of your life. And then what I want you to do, because I know you're wanting tangible takeaways, is ask yourself, and there's so many things, there's a bazillion places I can go in this podcast, but ask yourself, what is my identity? What self-management skills would I need? What are my unconscious habits? There are episodes on those in the first 10 episodes. But all that I want you to start really thinking about, and if you do that, I've gotten the ball across home plate on this episode, I want you to start owning 100% that your life is a reflection of your self-management skills. And when your self-management skills, in particular your thinking and your transformation and working from the inside out, when that changes, everything else will change. Okay, thank you for listening to this episode, and I will catch you over, well, wherever I catch you on a video or the next episode or somewhere else. Thanks for listening, and do what you can to make it a great day today. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this entire podcast. If you're the kind of person who likes to help others, then share this with your friends and family. You know, if you found value, they will too. So please share via your social media channels. Also, if you have questions, I'm here to assist. You can email me questions to support@jimfortin.com, and I may even use your question for a future podcast episode. Also, if you want transformational content like this daily, connect with me on Instagram. My Instagram name is I am Jim Fortin. Finally, I do have a personal request. I believe that we're all here to help others and to grow and evolve ourselves. Together, you and I, let's help more people. If you would please leave a review on iTunes, and a good one by the way. I'd be grateful, and through your assistance together, we can transform more lives.